Do you ever feel blocked in your life? Like there is some unnatural hold or lock that has been placed on you, and you are unable to move forward in the direction you want until this block is removed. The problem is you don't know how to pinpoint what this is and what is holding you back, keeping you locked into where you currently are, in these repeating patterns and cycles, keeping you stuck in your life, unable to break through to the next phase of your conscious evolution. Locked away deep inside your consciousness exists something beyond your wildest dreams. Just like a mansion, we are full of hundreds to thousands of rooms which represent every aspect of your own fragmentals. One of the most prominent things that keeps us blocked, and something that isn't talked about in really any community, the spiritual community, the New Age, the religious community, I haven't really heard of anybody talking about this for the most part, and that is consciousness seals. What are consciousness seals? So basically, as we continue to evolve, we are working to activate dormant parts of our DNA. There are 12 strands of DNA that we're working to activate. Within those 12 strands of DNA, there are 12 substrands, for which each of them needs to be activated in order for it to plug in to the next phase, in order to plug in, like puzzle pieces, to the next level of consciousness. And then once that happens, it continues to evolve and acts as a ripple effect in which we continue to expand and open that DNA within us. As we go through life, you are going to experience things that are not normal to people, especially if you're on the path. If you are one of the chosen ones to embark upon this journey. And what I mean by that is we all have a gift, we all have a purpose for being here. But a select few of us, and that would be the 144,000, came into this reality in order to make shifts of consciousness, dramatic shifts. And many of us are born into families, are born into situations that require an extra level of depth, an extra level of perception, and an extra level of healing in order to not only get through that, but to help others around us as well. But just by simply healing that within us, heals the decades and centuries of family trauma that had been passed down through to you. You are the black sheep. You came here for this purpose. You came here to free not only yourself, but your whole lineage. And I know that sounds intimidating, but we're all here together. We're all here to help lift each other up, to help us remember and bring us back to that one unified goal of achieving and living in a better world where we can all live in harmony, not only with each other, but with the world around us, with Mother Nature, to become one with the plants and animals, and to just be part of the land again. It's almost like there's been a complete separation in our consciousness where we've lost that connection not only to ourselves, to our family and friends, but also to Mother Nature and the world around us that we're living in. This is our home. We are caretakers, and it is our responsibility to step into that, to give Mother Nature what she needs to heal so that she can give back to us what we need to heal. And the energy that you put out is the energy that you are going to get back in your reality. In your sphere of consciousness, you create this energetic torus around you. This energetic torus surrounds us at all times. Every frequency that you think and speak and feel adds or takes away from this field, this toroid field that surrounds us at all times. This energy is like a magnet, in that it pulls things to us, good or bad, based off of the thoughts, the feelings, and the words that we are speaking, thinking, and feeling. Everything that comes in through our sphere of consciousness gets processed through our energetic bodies, through this toroidic field, and from the frequency and straight energy that it was, it gets processed, condensed down into words, into thoughts, into feelings. And as we go through life, especially if you are here during this time right now, you are likely being called to heal that within your family, to heal these roots, to heal these wounded aspects of yourself that has been passed down through your family. There's an incredible book I read on this topic, and I wanted to refer to it. I want to go deeper into this as we move forward and come back to it. I haven't really delved deeply into it. I also need to finish the book, but it's called It Didn't Start With You. A lot of the trauma that you have, and a lot of the reactions and the triggers that you have may not even come from you or come from this lifetime. It may come from your family members. It may come from your ancestors from lineages ago, from centuries ago. It may even come from past lives, hundreds or thousands of years ago. Cycles is the key word here. Cycles. We repeat cycles, just like the world around us that we live in. Mother Nature repeats cycles, goes through seasons. And in our lives, if we do not heal at the root, if we do not get to the core of what is causing us to act in this way, and to heal that, then we're going to continue to perpetuate this cycle. Cycles is the key word. And that is what we are trying to get out of. To break those cycles, to break those patterns, to break the chains so that we can free ourselves from the seals of consciousness that have bound us. Sometimes even when we do certain things and we think we're doing the right thing, what you inevitably end up doing is creating more issues and more problems for you to work through. And that is what's happened on our planet. That is what's happened with these seals of consciousness. And that's what I want to get into today, is that not only do you need to work through your own blocks and obstacles, but you also have to work through your families and your ancestors. And that's not all. We also have what is considered a consciousness seal. If you think of a seal, it's like a stamp of approval, or a stamp to represent something, to keep something held together. This seal, or seal of consciousness, acts to suppress aspects of ourself, which is where our junk DNA comes into play, because scientists don't even know what this junk DNA as they call it, is. And the reason is because we haven't activated the dormant parts within us that allow that to be released. And a big reason that we haven't done that is because of these seals of consciousness. These seals keep us bound, keep us locked, like a quarantine fence, trapped into this frequency. They are frequency keyed, in that they are activated and deactivated from certain frequencies, which means that in order for us to step into this frequency requires us to give a certain input into ourselves, into our body, to allow for those seals to be released, which I want to bring back to our DNA and the substrands, because we have 12 strands of DNA, and within those 12 strands we have 12 substrands. And we need to activate each of the substrands, and once those get filled up, that strand of consciousness is able to plug in to the next layer, to the next level of consciousness, so that we can upgrade and we can activate those fire codes, which will allow us to release these seals of consciousness. So stick with me here, and I will help you to not only understand what these seals of consciousness are, but how to break through and deactivate them so that you can live your happiest, joyous, and most fulfilling life, and to live the life of your dreams. Hi, I'm Cody, and I help people to activate their divine consciousness fire codes that will ignite your heart ablaze and open the door to limitless possibilities. So basically what I want to touch on here is that these seals of consciousness act as reincarnation traps, because if we do not activate these particular strands of our DNA, then what's going to happen is we are going to get stuck here in a trap. So it creates this loop, this spiraling cycle that we get stuck in, and this repeats every thousands of years. And over time, we are given the opportunity to break out of these seals of consciousness, and they can only be broken through certain frequencies, because they are frequency keyed, as you can see here, frequency keyed. And that means, just like in a video game, if you input certain codes, certain cheat codes, you have to input them exactly or else they won't work. The same thing with computer programming. If you're creating a program, you have to input the exact specific sequence or else the code isn't going to work. That's the same here. These seals are frequency keyed. So I want to touch on this later too, is that we have been conditioned, and this is something that has been perpetuated through the New Age movement, and something that I've kind of felt a little weary about since the beginning, is that we're actually learning the wrong mechanics. And this is actually what led to the fall of Atlantis, is that we were all learning the false light mechanics, which ultimately created more implants within our consciousness, within our DNA, which got passed down to the next generation and to our next incarnations upon this physical plane. So we need to bring ourselves back from a base 10 to a base 12. And I know a lot of you won't agree with this, because I didn't necessarily agree when I first stumbled upon it either. But we are living in a false light matrix, which means the entire reality for which we are living in has been skewed to fit this base 10 mathematical frequency, which keeps us locked into these seals. And these are the different types of consciousness seals, just a couple different types, not all of them. There's a lot more seals that I haven't mentioned on this board. These are just a few. So in order to break through these seals, there's a couple different ways for which we can do that. Of course, activating the divine fire codes, which I have talked about and will continue to extensively talk about and go into depth on how to actually activate those fire codes. And the interesting thing too is that each fire code within our DNA responds to different stimulus. So every person has different codes that need to be activated. So the same sequence of coding that goes into my body isn't going to correspond the same as with your body. They're all unique, they're all individual. And it just depends on what it is that you need for your body and your own spiritual development. The next one I want to talk about is nervous system regulation. And that's actually one of the seals, which I didn't actually put on here. It's the Zeta seal. I'm going to go ahead and add that actually, you know what? The Zeta seal was implanted upon us, and it's in between the third and the fourth strands of our DNA. It keeps our third and fourth strands of DNA from plugging into each other. And basically, on a physical sense, it is the connection between our heart and brain. So there has been a disconnect, which doesn't allow our heart to connect with our brain. due to that disconnect, we're not able to regulate our nervous system. So our nervous system is constantly firing. We're constantly in this fight or flight, which I've been talking about as well, as being stuck in this fight or flight response. We're not able to actually heal, to actually go into the true depths of our healing that we need to do. Not only physically, but spiritually, mentally, metaphysically, all the various levels. But it starts with the physical, because if we're not able to physically heal and align ourselves, then we're not going to be able to energetically and mentally and emotionally align ourselves either. The next way to remove these seals is through the embodying of various archetypes. So whenever you're playing games, I like to use video games as an analogy, because essentially this is just one big matrix, and it's similar to how a video game is, and how the video game has its own matrix of codes and computing, and that is what creates the reality for which you're playing inside of the game, and you are essentially the higher consciousness controlling the avatar inside of the game. The same here is that we aren't the ones technically fully in control, but we do have a sense of free will to where we are the ones that are making the decisions, but we're also being led through our intuition by our higher self in order to figure out which way to go for our soul. Okay, so anyway, bringing this back, whenever you embody the archetypes, you are essentially hacking and bypassing a lot of the steps that you would have to take without that, because what happens is these archetypes are like blueprints. They are energetic blueprints for which you are able to sink into and bring into your body so that you can activate those dormant energies within you from these previous archetypes that have already been established. Carl Jung talks extensively about archetypes and what that means and how to activate and connect with those, but these archetypes basically we all have different archetypes for which we are connected to. And it's important to see and feel what it is that we need within our divine template in order to activate, or rather to know what archetypes we need to activate to step into our highest selves. Okay, so the archetypes are key. I have a video on archetypes if you wanted to go more into depth. And there's also plenty of information out there. Not just Carl Jung, but there's been so many different types of information to come out about archetypes and what archetypes mean and the various archetypes that are out there. So I encourage you to explore that to see what archetype you may be drawn to, and then to explore tapping into and stepping into those archetypes. Which also comes with modeling. Modeling is another great way. If you find a role model or somebody that you look up to, or I have coaches that help me, and my coaches, I'm able to model my teaching and my business after them, because it helps me to step in using their blueprints that they have already created, and I step in and plug in what is unique within my blueprint, but I utilize those structures that they already have laid out. So those blueprints give us the ability to bypass a lot of the work that we'd have to do on our own. So if I was to go and do all this work on my own without a coach, I would have to figure out a ton more information, and not only that, but I wouldn't have the perspective of being able to connect with them and talk to them and ask them questions. So that is huge. And that's a very similar situation as tapping into archetypes, because when you do that, you are bypassing a lot of the initial steps that you would have to go through on your own, or at some point in your journey you have to go through and understand certain aspects. When you follow the template from somebody else, they've already laid out everything for you, so you just plug your information right in and you just jump right into it. So you don't have to go through the whole figuring out process, because you've already got that mapped out for you. The blueprint is laid out. All you have to do is step into it and plug in the information that is there within you. The next one is a little more subtle. It's subliminals. but it definitely works because you are shifting yourself on a subconscious level. And I've heard of so many people that have used subliminals that have completely transformed their lives, from losing weight to growing, things on their body that they were trying to grow out, or it's helped me to strengthen and improve my muscles. It's you can use it for healing. Whenever I'm feeling sick or my girlfriend is feeling sick, I will put these on at night, especially because you're able to listen to those. Your subconscious is able to listen to those, and you're not consciously thinking. It's just you're soaking up all that energy, all that frequency. It's going back to frequency key, because you're soaking in all these frequencies that are going to activate dormant parts of you. So that is another key tool that would help subliminals, especially at night. And then, of course, meditation. Meditation helps to bring awareness within yourself and to bring awareness to certain perspectives, to bring awareness to what may be causing these seals and blocks in the first place. Because like I said, everybody has a different set of frequency keys that need to be activated. So it's up to you to decide and figure out what works best in order to activate those. And then I'm going to touch on, and I'll likely have to go into this later. I did touch briefly on the Zeta seals, but these are some of the different types of seals. We have crystal and earth core seals, which are natural. Basically, upon certain sequences of events and activations within your body, these are going to activate and release seals that have been keeping dormant parts of you contained until you are evolved and upgraded enough to take in these new downloads and this new bit of information so that you can activate and step into these new versions of yourself. So these natural seals act as a natural part of our evolution, and was originally supposed to be there because because we were supposed to have these seals to keep us from activating parts of our DNA that would bypass other parts, and then whenever we activate certain seals, it would keep us locked and separated from different parts and fragmented from our consciousness, because we have to activate and release these seals in a sequential order, or else what could happen is we could release certain strands of our DNA before other strands are released, and that could cause different parts of us to be fragmented so that we're not able to activate the full 12-strand DNA, if that makes any sense. It's a little confusing, but I'm going to touch on it more. Basically, they set these seals in place so that we would follow a natural progression and heal the aspects of ourselves that we need to. And then we have extraterrestrial races that came along, wanted to act as gods, and they stepped in. And that's when they started to, over time, they placed these various seals. There's the 666 seal, the Jehovian, the Solomon, the Zeta. I'm going to touch onto these deeper later because this is a very heavy and dense topic, and it's just a lot to go through. So I don't want to overload you with too much information all at once, but basically these were placed upon us. They're like imprints, they're seals to keep us from activating parts of our DNA that'll keep us suppressed and keep us locked so that we don't activate those 12 strands of DNA, because once we do, they know that we are going to regain our power and we are going to remember who we are, and that's going to be problematic for some of these extraterrestrial races who are influencing us. And then fire codes, which I just made a video about. I'm going to link here if you want to check it out more. Basically, the fire codes are like our cellular alphabet. So basically, the fire letter forms the fire codes, which allow us to activate these dormant parts of our DNA. Each fire letter is like a letter in our alphabet, because each letter forms a word, and each word forms a sentence. So when we piece those together, the letters make words, the words make sentences. We form the codes that will give us the frequency keys that will unlock these aspects of ourselves, because they are electromagnetic codes. So these codes are electromagnetic, and they're also time vectors. So these fire codes are outside of the spectrum of time, in the sense that once you alter things in the present moment, it not only changes the future, but also changes the past. Because time is not linear. So these time vectors, these fire codes, are time vectors, and they not only, if you know physics, vectors are not only based on the magnitude in order to determine the size of the arrow and the size of the distance being traveled, but it's also based on the direction. So these vectors are based upon not only how much, but also the direction from which they are moving. Humans are not singular vector consciousness, in that they have multiple consciousness coexisting simultaneously within these lifetimes. So there are parts of you right now that are existing simultaneously while you're existing here and now, and it is the same source of consciousness that runs your body, that runs that body, and they are connected. They are affecting each other. So a lot of your dreams are actually just other lifetimes and other realities for which you are connected to. So when we activate these fire codes, we're going to deactivate these seals, which will allow us to achieve the breakthroughs in our lives that we wish to achieve. Otherwise, we're going to continue to fall back into these old patterns and repeat these cycles over and over again until we activate the correct frequency for our DNA sequence. Then we are going to continue to stay stuck in these traps, in these reincarnation traps. And that is what has happened to us for hundreds and thousands of years, is that we didn't know this information. We didn't have this information. So how could we have broken out of it? Because we didn't even know what we were stuck in. And we believed all these lies that we've been told over the years without being given the full picture of what is truly happening. The earth core seal is 6 inches beneath your feet. You're working with a goldish light floating underneath your feet. This gold light is your earth star. So it connects you to your light body in the first chakra, down and through the earth. So you are able to access these DNA strands, which act as imprints and activate through the various time identities, which repatterns the entirety of your existence. Another thing I want to touch on is soul fragmentation. Soul fragmentation has been used because through disconnecting us from our various bodies, our emotional bodies, our mental bodies, from our physical bodies, it keeps us fragmented. Not only that, but aspects of our soul has been fragmented throughout space and time, throughout the various time identities. Which has caused a ripple in the universal time matrix. The leftover subconscious fragments act as shadow bodies that filter out aspects of our own energy. Which distorts the human light body. And this inner distortion creates more physical pain within our physical bodies. These fragments cause us to be separated from our highest version. These fragmentations cause a rift between our own identity, keeping us from activating these DNA strands in this lifetime. These fragmented parts are being released of their magnetic bonds from our higher selves, from our higher identity, our core selves. So these fragmented parts of us are floating around in these dimensional spaces rather than being fixed or bonded into the elements.
On the right way. Butterfly. We're going to try to head up to that mountaintop. Are we going looping around with the that way or both?
I think there's a trail up here, man.